Hi everyone. Um, I thought to continue from a few days ago. This is some new type of video that is a little edgy for me. I usually, record myself when I do circle of being shadow work groups, guided meditations, and processing and teachings, and I feel comfortable, very comfortable there. Last video. Especially that I made it so public to the whole world, I wasn't in that position, so I was more like sharing about my journey of trying to understand, the journey of, part of the journey of awakening and embodiment. Part of the journey of embodiment is to fully feel, and to my you see, I go into teaching mode. It's comfortable. So my own emotional body has been shut down in many ways. As a kid, and of course for all the types of work and various teachings and various earnest effort, then it changed, it thawed out. But looking back now, I can see that as I grew in certain areas, or awakened in certain areas to certain truths, and somehow cleaned my system of various patterns and stuff, there's this element of emotional repression. And now I'm aware that some of you watching this are into the Killer Bee members area, and you are doing the work, and I appreciate that, and it's awesome to have brothers and sisters like that. And some of you are just, they don't know what I'm talking about, even Scott Killaby. So just want to mention that, Scott Killaby it's a great teacher of mine that came very, I attracted him, or whatever, God sent it to me in order to do this work, to clean up some stuff that other teachers or other teachings or my own, because we are the teacher basically, my own misunderstanding created this problem of not only emotional repression and suppression as an adaptive mechanism from childhood, not only getting osmosis and transmission from my father and my grandfather and my great-grandfather for sure on both sides, and of not allowing real feelings, not feeling them, and because they didn't have tools, they didn't have time, there was in a war, there was in a concentration camp, various reasons. I love them, it's not their fault. I talked it last time. And so they just needed to survive with what they got, and to provide, to struggle, to provide. They didn't have time to explore their feelings. That's a luxury. And to actually feel them consciously and allow them, so that and I believe in the tribes. I believe that. I truly believe that. I don't know, I haven't been there, but in tribes or more healthy societies, the warriors, the shamans, the regular population in the past, they were not so disconnected from the emotional body so much. I think this is a more modern day affliction, I believe, after the Industrial Revolution, maybe when rites of passage stopped happening, I don't know. But this affliction of shutting down the emotional body. And what I mean the emotional, like sadness, fear, despair, grief, anger. And all right, so let's stay on point here. yeah, so Scott Kilby somehow was almost an upgrade in all the teaching that I've done and I practiced. And yeah, my point was that on top of this emotional repression and suppression that I inherited from my ancestors, uh, the spiritual teachings and the practices, the awareness-based practices that and all the stuff that I have cultivated for 20 years, many of them, they further strengthen the mechanism of repression of my emotions. And also a lot of the techniques I was using, fourth way techniques, Gurdjieff work, self-remembering, they call it self-remembering, even the term transformation of suffering, separating myself from the sense of self from the emotion, as well as Buddhist Zazen meditation, various concentration techniques, even in non-duality, as I got later in non-duality, even the very techniques that were encouraged, they were meant to no longer suppress them and welcome fully the sense of unease, the sense of lack, the feeling. I would use the very same techniques with the secret agenda to not feel that and not to feel that, and to be in a space of imperturbability, and so and this is a lot of effect on my life that it took me a long time to acknowledge and took a long time to realize what is wrong and what's the problem. A lot of emotional, relational difficulties. So now if I have puffy eyes, it's as if I cried. It is because I cried. Yeah, I cried. All right, so let's stay on point here. Yeah, so I was saying that actually after the last video, I was feeling like, whoa, that was edgy. There was some my mind, my ego, my protector, whatever, would be like, man, there was way vulnerable, like, you know, yeah. And even now, I felt called to do this, especially because I was inspired. I got some people that watch that, or some people I work with, clients or various groups, they watch that and they share some of their own story, and someone here on YouTube commented their experience. So that was like yeah, that's good. That helps and helps other people and helped me a lot. So I was encouraged to continue that, although it's I'm afraid. Okay, so I'm going to use this to really make this emotional body online. Yeah, yeah, fear of being. I'm afraid to show um, sadness. Yeah, and I'm afraid to show vulnerability. Uh, I can do this. I do it. Some people, I do it in groups. I do it, but now it's like straight up there. So start to have all these resistances, and so this is part of the repression barrier. The repression. This is a term from Scott Kilby, and I guess I'm going all over the place. Yeah, so if you guys want to understand better that you are what I'm talking about here about the emotional repression, and not just to understand but to do something about it, I encourage you to check out Scott Kilby on YouTube. He talks about it all the time. Enlightenment, awareness-based non-dual teacher that doesn't bypass trauma and is not afraid to go into the deepest pain and to process it little by little, and to he had his own journey of thinking that he is done when fully enlightened and complete work is done, but then realized there was a lot of pockets of things that were not done, and there were emotional repression that created a lot of problems for him. And also Gabor Mate talks about it, and other teachers, Lester Levinson and other teachers in science, that there's this emotional repression and suppression, which is long practice from childhood, creates a lot of mental health issues, recurring patterns, weird chronic pain diagnosis, and ultimately the not allowing and feeling and showing the emotion. It creates this like inauthentic. I mean, I'm fake basically, and I'm fake and not in touch with the truest sense of response, you know. So then I'm not honoring my truest sense of response. Like if a tiger, they were not in touch with their truest response, there will be no more fucking tigers, man. So this not being in touch with your inner response and shutting down my truest, deepest response and not feeling it and not showing it, all of this becomes like inauthentic. Inauthenticity, it's a popular term in New Age culture, and we are trying to be authentic, but one cannot be authentic while there's emotional repression. So this inauthenticity, it's also like this creates a lot of problems. Not putting boundaries, not saying no, not. This creates cancer. I think it's one of the causes for cancer that is not so well known. All right, so I want to focus now more on the sadness thing, you know, and people who want to understand more and do something about it, yeah, check out Scott Killaby, and there's also an awesome members area that is very, very, very cheap, affordable, with lots of support, and people are doing this work, and I'm doing this work, and I encourage you, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, to check it out. All right. So, yeah, so I was afraid to share, and I feel now, yeah, some hesitancy. And actually, I was talking to a friend of mine who has a kind of a similar issue. There was some deep losses in childhood, and he had the same kind of similar pattern, basically. And then the sadness was not allowed. Also, his father had to be tough and not share, not feel, not shut it down. Be strong, don't be weak. You know, I consider this is so universal for many men, maybe women too. So he told me that, yeah, as I was talking to him, that when we did this KI inquiry, I can show my sadness. This is an inquiry. It's not just, you know, if you are not familiar with this, it's okay. It's a way to prompt one's subconscious to the surface using some key statement while we are in a aware state. So, you know, when I was working with him and myself or others, and we'll say things like, he was at the point that I'm at the point where I can feel it. It's a sadness. I can feel it. I can overall allow it. This is one element of undoing the repression, but also there's this element of showing it, showing it. And of course, not everybody, not everybody's safe, but some people actually that are able to be present and not try to fix it, and not try to advise us, not try to do anything about it, which is actually rare. But we'll do this inquiry. I can show my sadness. I can show my sadness to my girlfriend. I can show my sadness. And it will come right away, this thought, voices or contractions saying, no, don't be a pussy. Don't be weak. Don't be a pussy. You have to be strong. So as I mentioned last video, these are programs, repressive programs, so we need to make them conscious before we can do it, because these are deeply embedded mechanisms, unconscious rules of being, and actually it's very hard to have a deeply bonded, loving, healthy relationship, partnership without this ability of feeling deeply and sharing deeply. It's impossible. So all right, so somebody here, I think the House of the Beloved, this is a beautiful name. It's interesting that the Beloved is a Sufi term, and I know I'm kind of rambling here. Sufi term, the Beloved, Rumi, Hafez. There was a symbolic term like as being God, but also was this a significant other. And there was this esoteric dynamic playing out God as the other, and Rumi had his teacher Shams, and with whom that he saw the radiance, or he saw, I guess, the self or the divine in Shams, and there was ingredient, the essential ingredient of the teaching to love him and be loved by him, I guess, and at some point, and these are legends, yeah. I think the Rumi at that time was already a reputed Sufi master, and he had his own monastery in Turkey, I think, in Konya. For sure, I've been there. And Rumi students were somehow jealous or something, and because Rumi was spending all this time locked into some cabin with Shams, and then there was jealousy, and I don't know. And so the story goes that Shams left. Shams left suddenly, unannounced. I guess either to protect, well, we don't know why Shams left, to protect Rumi from all of these things, or because maybe he felt like whatever, he needed to go, or we don't know what happened. We don't know, basically, but the story goes that he left, Shams left, and Rumi was devastated with this wound of love, wound of this separation from the beloved, and that played out in all his poems. And at the same time, we know it's esoteric. From one angle, it was a mystic. So it was not a non-dual Shnani path. It was almost like a bhakti, devotional, mystical path. And for sure that when we talks about the beloved, and that's the sense of the separation from source, the illusion of separation from source, and the pain connected to that, the pain connected to the illusion of separation. Also, it could be, I mean, they're all levels at the same time. It could be that he just really missed Shams, and he was so close to Shams, and Shams was this guy, and Shams was this teacher, and Shams was an expression of the divine, and Shams was the divine, and then he just suddenly left, and then he was just sad. He was just fucking sad and longing and missing and alone, and yeah, which is how I feel these days. Yeah, even after, and I'll come back to you, the House of the Beloved, because you said something there interesting, but I just want to share something. And also Rumi said that suffering suffering is being purified by God, being washed. Yeah, suffering is being washed by God's. Now, I think that, I'm pretty sure it's not just suffering. There are different kinds of suffering. There's like a unconscious suffering, and there is a suffering that we suffer consciously. Because, I studied the fourth way for a long time, and Gurdjieff there was saying that everybody's suffering, man. Everybody is suffering in some way, but not everybody is making some benefit from their suffering from the point of view of awakening or embodiment or liberation or consciousness, evolutionary consciousness process. We can suffer and suffer in vain. Maybe not in vain, maybe in next life or whatever, if it exists, but suffering consciously. So I guess this bringing this presence and this awareness-based presence practices, or being established as the presence, self-inquiry, but allowing our deepest pain to be allowed and felt while being conscious of it, but not separating ourselves from it, because as I said last time in the last video, part one is Memoirs of a Sadness Repressor. The very sadness or the sense of loneliness or these energies are very modulation of awareness. So maybe the beginning is okay to take the stand as the witness, and everything comes and goes. The witness doesn't come and go. The real witness doesn't come and go. Ultimately, that stance can be used as a crutch to avoid feelings. And so, to stay as consciousness and to allow the feeling to be, and also the feeling, and in the feeling there are thoughts, maybe there are thoughts from childhood, thoughts, painful thoughts, simple thoughts like, I can't live without her, I am so alone, don't go, don't leave me, I'm sorry, even like mama, and yeah, so this allowing this, making them conscious, and allowing that the pain to be allowed and felt, that is really true transformation of suffering, what Gurdjieff was talking about, that I wasn't doing so well at that time. I guess I was doing the best I could. I was 20, so suffering with the same thing. Oh my god, I have to bookmark this, man. The same fucking pattern with relationship, suffering, and then avoiding the suffering and escaping it, played for like 22, 20, 45, 23 years. All right, so after our last expression, my last video where I shared this, there was a big storm here, big storm in California, in Northern California. Yeah, where I'm at, where usually it's warm and dry and lots of fires, and there was big snow at my house. The snow was up to the waist, and I needed to escape, so I left, and it took me quite a bit of adventure to go for the snow with the car, and just fallen trees, and like intense and fun. And finally I escaped. I went to town, and the idea was that I'll go to town and stay with friends, or stay somewhere I could sleep in a car or whatever. But somehow the whole town was shut down. Everything was shut down. All the friends were whatever unavailable, or I felt this heart broken heartache. And I feel it now to some degree too, yeah, in my chest. And I just couldn't be with anybody. I couldn't do like chit chat, like shallow, or just even like normal deep talk. I couldn't, And then somehow, although I managed to get to town, from deep like mountain, and somehow I got to town. I tried to make a U-turn in downtown, and there was a slippery thing and a sliding thing, and I got stuck downtown Nevada City. Got stuck. I couldn't do anything about it. Ice. Anyway, so that kind of was perfect conditions. Now I had already this processing this end of a relationship, which I'm trying the best I can and better than ever to not avoid the pain of that. And by doing that, which I have been master at avoiding all my life, master, man, I can write a book how to avoid pain in relationship, how to bypass and how to escape, and how to do all kind of things to just not feel things and to go about lolly da in your life. It's gonna catch up with you. It's gonna catch up with you. It's gonna be bad. All right. So let me catch my line here, because there is a line. Yeah. So I'm honestly trying to do this, and I'm doing that more than ever. And by doing that, what happens is that